Robin Simcox, Research Fellow at the Centre for Social Cohesion. So Simcox, if we could start with you. Wilders' stance is clearly resonating quite widely with the Dutch. Why might that be?
Well, I think Wilders is talking about a lot of things which the Dutch people may have felt have been beyond discussion for a long time. Obviously, the number one topic is Islam. But I think multiculturalism more generally and immigration are other things that Wilders has touched upon. Now, obviously, Wilders is hugely controversial, polarises opinion. But what I think you can't deny is that he is discussing subjects which maybe the mainstream Dutch politicians haven't touched upon for a long time. I think that explains a lot of his popularity.
Are you surprised by his rise to power?
I'm not sure if I'm surprised. I think it happens when people feel, and obviously you see what's happened in Sweden, where also far-right parties have gained there. I think this is what happens when an electorate begins to feel disenfranchised, and I think that is increasingly happening in Europe, and Wilders is really just a manifestation of that, and Holland has been the first country where it's happened in.
Okay, Robin Simcox, we're hearing that the Christian Democratic Appeal Party in the Netherlands is deciding to accept Wilders' support in their coalition government that they're just forming. Do you think this is a sign that Wilders' views are indeed becoming more mainstream?
Well, I think you have to really separate Holland off. Holland, I think that probably is the case. But if you look at Europe more generally, for example, the United Kingdom, just to go back to the last point, Islam really is barely discussed at all. I think there is still quite a culture of political correctness about the whole issue. I think you see, there's always going to be small amounts of racist groups that exist, unfortunately. But I think what you increasingly see is this issue of Islam and multiculturalism and Islamism increasingly resonating with people in European countries, but the political class often not really being willing to take it on. And as I mentioned, I think Wilders is the first person, with the exception perhaps of Pim Fortuyn, to really do this in a quite forceful and outspoken way. And obviously it has resonated, be it because of the economic situation or other social factors. Wilders is picking up votes, and I think you really have to look at why that is.
Well, Geert Wilders is well known for his outspoken views. Here are some of his past comments. He says, "I've had enough of Islam in the Netherlands. Let not one more Muslim immigrate. Islam is not a religion, it's an ideology, the ideology of a retarded culture." He's also said he has a problem with Islamic tradition, culture, ideology, but not with Muslim people. And he's declared we have to stop the tsunami of Islamization. It's affecting our heart, our identity, our culture. Certainly some very inflammatory language there. By giving someone such as Geert Wilders such a public platform, does it not risk alienating people who are very good citizens?
But, who's giving the public platform? He's in the public platform because to a certain amount of Dutch people he's popular. I don't see how you can avoid that. I think you've just got to look at the issues around it. And if I could just quickly come back on a point that's been made a couple of times now about Muslims being the new Jews. This is a myth. Muslims have complete freedom of religion in Europe. The Jews under Nazi Germany were gassed and killed. Nothing remotely comparable is even thought about happening, where Muslims have exactly the same freedom of religion as Europe amends to all minority religions.
Okay, well, Mr. Simcox, is it a passing phenomenon?
Well, I don't think we can really put it like that, because these things we've been talking about, Wilders isn't the first person to mention them. I think it's a manifestation that's been going on for a long time, where earlier there was a reference to Europe assimilating Muslims rather than integrating them. I actually think the opposite's true. In Europe, a lot of the discussion at the moment is how certain ethnic minority communities we haven't managed to integrate them at all. And I think that is a pressing, bigger problem. How do we begin that process of making, for example, Muslims in Europe integrate into Europe better? And I think Wilders goes about it the wrong way. But that's one of the things that I think what he says resonates with people on a larger base.
But Mr. Simcox, do you also agree that the immediate future is very bleak?
I think the immediate future, I mean, it can be as bleak as we want. I think a couple of things just need to be said. There is no question that Europeans are not creating an enemy amongst Muslims. That is just a complete untruth. America, you've got to remember, with British support, bombed a Christian country in Kosovo in defence of Muslims in 1999. Europe is an overwhelmingly tolerant place for Muslims. To say that they're being made to feel outcast is just not true. I agree that there needs to be further debate as to how best to integrate Muslims into the country, but not, you know, it's very easy to just dismiss everything as saying the answer to everything is more dialogue, more debate. That seems to be the answer to everything at the moment, and I think we've got to look at some pretty hard truths, which is, unfortunately, integration hasn't happened as well as we like. British-born Muslims set off bombs on London trains. We can't skirt around that fact, and there have been a host of other convictions. These are hard facts, they're unpleasant ones, but I think they're ones we have to face up to.